No, I'm just joking. I don't know why I did that. I thought maybe just 'cause everybody does it these days. Everybody starts off their YouTube videos doing this heaps dramatic shit at the start. Anyway, guys, what I'm going to be talking about in this video is Des Hasler and the Bulldogs, and just give my 2 cents on the situation that's happening right now in terms of, is he going to get sacked? Is he not? Should he get sacked? Should he not? Etc. etc. Now, let's just get things straight right from the start here. Des Hasler has been a fantastic coach over the years. You can't even debate it. He's been a great coach. He's won premierships with Manly. He's obviously won multiple premierships with Manly. And if you can do that, that's enough to say that you are a quality coach. That's not what I'm talking about here. Now, I'm obviously talking as a Bulldog supporter, and I don't speak for all Bulldog supporters. I speak for some of them, maybe, but not all of them. I know for sure there are definitely some Hasler supporters out there who think it's crazy to get rid of him, but I'm not one of them. For the longest time, I used to see people going back years ago, people like, you see Bulldogs fans, especially on the kennel, I'd see them say, "Oh man, we need to get rid of Des Hasler, get rid of him, he's so shit," well, etc., etc. You know what I'm talking about. That stuff happens with all coaches, I'm sure. And I used to think, man, these guys are insane. You see, we've been to 2 grand finals. I mean, we're killing it at the moment. But that all changed. It was a game against the Broncos. We lost that one. We dropped out of the top four, I think, or we could have secured a spot in the top four. Then we followed it up with a must-win game against, I think it was Cowboys. And we got hammered in that one as well. And I was like, man, you know what? I'm so done with this team. I'm so done with this coach. Now, you might be thinking, Luke, isn't your beef kind of with the players? And to a degree, it kind of is. I do feel like the players should be playing a lot better than what they have been. However, I do feel a lot of that is down to the coaching, if I'm honest. I personally think the last year, our play style has pretty much been wait until Sam Casiano comes on the field and hope that he can do the rest. That's seriously what it feels like. We sort of just plod along with Graham and Tolman on, and then Casiano come on about 25th minute, and then we just got to hope that we're still in the game by that point and he can come on and score a try or set up a try. That's honestly, I don't know about you guys, but is that what it seems to you guys? Leave in the comment section below if that's how you feel. I feel there's so many things wrong with the way Des Hasler is coaching the side at the moment. It's not even just on-field stuff, it's off the field as well. I mean, even just looking at the Hopewadi stuff, I mean, why would you go and sign a player who's not going to play in the finals? It doesn't make any sense to me. But, I mean, that's a whole other issue itself. I mean, that isn't anything on Hopewadi. Good for him, he tried to do it. But, yeah, Hasler agreed to it, and I think that is idiotic, but it is what it is. Speaking of signings, why don't we talk about some signings? Because I don't think they've been very good at all since he's been here. And I don't know how much control he has over the signings, but you'd expect to have at least a little bit. And the people he brought over, Noel Cleland, that was his decision. He brought them over as far as I know. So it kind of is on Des Hasler a little bit. But, I mean, you look at the players he's brought in. The obvious one, the elephant in the room here, Tony Williams. I mean, what was he thinking? Tony Williams was good for 1 year. He's brought him across. And I don't know if this is, sure, like, I'd say most of the blame has to go on Tony Williams himself, let's be honest. But the inability to drop him up until this last year, and even then that only lasted 1 week. Just 1 week it lasted. Granted, he did come back and play well when he actually sat out that week, which sort of begs the question, what if he did it earlier? What if he did it in the first year? What if he dropped Tony Williams and said, Tony Williams, put your finger out or you're going to be in reserve grade for the rest of this contract, or we're going to ship you off. Who knows what would have happened? Maybe Tony Williams, nothing would have changed. But at least, like, I feel with Des Hasler, he's so stubborn, so stuck in his ways that, like, even with the players, he can't even swap out players. If there's someone who's obviously underperforming, he just refuses to not drop him. It's so frustrating. Honestly, that's probably my biggest beef with Des Hasler. Just the fact that week in, week out, you know this team's going to be exactly the same, regardless of who played well in the previous week. Damien Cook comes into the side, right? Damien Cook kills it. He kills it. Michael Leacher hasn't really done too much. And then, like, it feels like he just cuts him off by the balls, really. And Damien Cook all of a sudden just turns into another little Leacher clone where he's just there to tackle. And then all of a sudden, Cook piss off the Souths. That's what it was like. And then Leacher comes in and just does the exact same role. That's another thing, but I'll get to that later. We'll stick to the recruitment. But yeah, Damien Cook's another one. Michael Ennis, God, hasn't that just blown up in our face really recently with him going over, retiring and winning a premiership with the Sharks there. Meanwhile, we're stuck with Michael Leacher. But yeah, Ennis, like, for the last 2 years or so, I was a big advocate of, like, Ennis needs to leave. He's past it. But you know why that is, I think? I think it's because Des Hasler coached him in the style, well, asked him to play in a style that made him look really shit, just like it's made Michael Leacher look shit. From all reports, I didn't see much of Michael Leacher when he's in the 20s, but he was making all the rep teams, everything, I think. And then all of a sudden he comes to the Bulldogs and he's just this guy who can tackle. Like, that's literally it. He doesn't run the ball, can't really pass it well. I don't know what's happened to him. He had the biggest raps on him. Surely that just wasn't all just, I don't know, smoke and mirrors there. Surely he actually was a really, really good player in the juniors, and all of a sudden, I don't know, just hasn't lost all his ability once he's stepped up to first grade. Because usually the problem players have in the juniors is their defense when they come up into first grade, and his has been outstanding. So you would think he should be flying at the moment. He should be going really well, but instead I feel like he's just regressing instead of progressing, which is annoying. But that kind of comes back to Michael Ennis as well. And for example, like I said, Damien Cook was the same thing. I feel like they're not allowed to play their natural game. When Ennis first came to the club in 2009, I remember he was a guy who used to get out of dummy half. He used to kick. He used to put in little grubbers, and you've seen it at the Sharks. He does it. Does he do it incredible? Is it awesome all the time? No, but can anybody put in a great kick every single time? I don't think so. Even Cameron Smith does some shitty kicks every now and again. But Michael Ennis was a great hooker, and we've seen that. He won a premiership, obviously. He played for New South Wales again since leaving. And, yeah, I just feel like Des Hasler didn't ruin him. Maybe not on purpose, but pretty much was just like, Ennis, I don't need you to do shit. I just need you to pass. That's our style. We're not going to try and play attacking. We just need you to pass the ball and tackle. And that was really, really annoying because Michael Ennis was a shadow of his former self. And obviously he's gone to the Sharks and he's done really, really well. And it's kind of just shown Des Hasler what he was capable of. Another person who's left the club, let's talk about Frank Pritchard. I thought Frank Pritchard was probably our best forward last year, maybe except for Josh Jackson. But Frank Pritchard was very, very good last year. And he gets kicked to the curb. He gets thrown overseas. Go to Hull FC or whatever. And he actually had a really good year. I'm sure Frank Pritchard is loving it over at Hull. I mean, wouldn't you? He's going there, winning Challenge Cup finals while we get knocked out first week in the finals and just barely even making it. But I was so annoyed when that happened because you got Frank Pritchard, who was really, really good last year, tries his guts out every week, and then you have a plotter like Tony Williams, who literally feels like he's just turning up just because he has to, not because he actually wants to, and doesn't even look like he wants to be on the field, and looks like he barely puts in any effort. Now, I'm sure Tony Williams, in his mind, says he does put in a lot of effort, and granted, he probably does, but that's just what it seems like from the outside looking in, from a spectator watching the TV. That's just what it feels like to me. Now, you might be thinking, you're only talking about players leaving the club. Why don't you talk about some players who you've signed? Well, obviously, I've already talked about Tony Williams, but apart from that, who else is there to talk about? Talked about Leacher, who hasn't really been a good signing. Who else? I mean, Curtis Rona has probably been the best signing that we've actually made, and he's gone now. So, I mean, he lasted 2 years, but he was our best signing, I'd say, since 2012 or whatever. I'm pretty happy with that one. But apart from that, it's all just been kind of average signing. Sam Parrott, to a degree, has been good, but he signed in 2012. That's a fair few years ago, and now he's gone as well. Lloyd Parrott, his brother, apparently the thing was they signed Lloyd, they signed Sam just so they could get Lloyd, and obviously that hasn't worked out very well. And that gets onto another point that I'll talk about later in terms of his ability to bring through juniors, which I don't think he's youthful players, I should say, which I don't think he's very, very good at. But Lloyd Parrott hasn't really got much of an opportunity. When he hasn't really shown too much. But I mean, he's only a 20-year-old, and it feels like he's kind of on the outer as well. For Taylor Mariner, like for so long, I remember hearing last year, Bulldogs are desperate to sign for Taylor Mariner. Bulldogs trying to sign for Taylor Mariner. I was sure it was going to happen. At this time last year, I was sure it was going to happen. It didn't happen, but it did finally happen midway through this year. And it was a swap deal for Sean Lane, another player who showed promise before having a fallout with Hasler and that. And granted, he hasn't really done too much at the Warriors, but he did show signs last year of looking like a decent player. But for Taylor Mariner, it's such a weird one. It feels like, from all reports, Hasler was so after him, needed him, wanted him so bad. We swapped the player mid-year, and we wanted to get him in ASAP. And then he gets here, and sometimes it would come on for 5 minutes. And there was a few games where he would play the whole game, whatever, and he looked pretty decent. Like, he has a good footwork, he has a good offload, something that I feel is pretty good in a modern-day footballer. Instead, we've got, like, all the big guys, who, when I say big guys, I mean, like, the real big guys who just try and bash their way through. Sometimes. They don't do it all the time. That's another thing I can talk about. There's so many things I can talk about with Hasler and the Bulldogs at the moment. It just doesn't make sense to me, the whole Taylor Mariner signing. Well, it does make sense, but the use of him. If he's not going to play, put him in reserve grade. There was like Lloyd Parrott would be 18th man every week and then not play either. So like, how are you developing these players? You're not like, you won't give players an opportunity. You'll keep picking the same team over and over. It doesn't matter how many shit games Tony Williams plays. He won't get dropped. For Taylor Mariner can come in and play, or Sean Lane, or whoever else is kind of the hot prospect at the time. And then like players like Tim Brown as well, who are there. Like, Tim Brown's leaving. He's another one. He's been a pretty good servant to the club, but he's not someone who needs to be in the team. Why don't you give some more opportunities to some of these youngsters? I mean, SES, looked decent for one game last year. Obviously, behaviour problems kind of screwed him over in the end, but like, he's another one who could have been there. Leilani Latu was at the Bulldogs. He was at the Bulldogs with David Clemmer, and David Clemmer is probably like the only one who sort of came through the Bulldog system, who's actually worked out really well, apart from Jackson. And then Finucane, another one who we got rid of. Just, there's so many decent players who we've got rid of, and you can say salary cap, but my biggest problem with the Bulldogs is that you look at other teams who are using their salary cap on their big players. You look at the Storms and stuff like that. They've all got them in their spine. Sharks, I think, as well. All their money is spent on their spine. They're 1, 6, 7, 9. Cowboys, another one. That's where you need to do it. Bulldogs, I feel we're so backwards. All of our money, I feel like, is in the forwards, and I'm pretty sure that's the case. I mean, Tony Williams on big money, Casiano signed big money, James Graham's on big money, and it doesn't seem right. Now, obviously, we have got a good forward pack, but they're not a forward pack that's going to win us a comp. They're not that dominant. They are good. On their day, can be the best in the comp, but that's not good enough on their day. We need to be them consistently the best in the comp, and the thing is, as we've seen in grand finals and final series, can't get the job done. And you want to know the reason why? In my opinion, it's because the halves are kind of... I'm not saying the halves are bad. I think the halves are fine. And Byers, I'm fine with Josh Reynolds, but I feel like the halves, it's another case of like hook position. The halves don't get to play as halves players. They're kind of just another fullback sweeping out the back there. They don't really get to control anything. They're barely even allowed to kick the ball properly. Like, it's ridiculous. The system is so broken, in my opinion, for Des Hasler. I feel like our attack sucks. Our defense is top notch, but you can't win a comp just trying to defend the whole time. As you saw there, the Storm defended valiantly, couldn't get the job done in the end because the Sharks just kept going and going and going, and eventually the Storm ran out of steam and ran out of juice, and then the Sharks went over and scored. Feeder just powered his way over. Just, there's so many things. I'm all over the shop here in this video, but I feel like, well, I hope that I'm making some decent points here, and this video is somewhat entertaining as well. Now, I touched on this point just before, and I'm going to touch on it again, and that is the forwards. I feel we're so heavily forward-based. It's so frustrating, and I think that really, really hurts us, because that's fine working out of your own end or whatever, but when we're attacking the opposition 20, that's where the half need to step up. That's where they need to get involved, and every single time, the amount of times, I'm not talking about actually getting stuck on the fifth tackle on purpose. I've seen that where we throw it out to Josh Morris and just get tackled because they don't want to give a repeat set. Whatever, that's fine. I don't care. I'm talking about where Aiden Tolman is touching the ball on the fifth tackle, and because he doesn't know what to do with it, he just... and then just gets tackled. Like, why the hell is Aiden Tolman getting the ball on the fifth tackle? And this isn't just like a one-off occurrence. This happens quite often. James Graham will get the ball on the fifth tackle. Casiano get the ball on the fifth tackle. Why are the halves not able to get their hands on the ball? I remember Michael Leacher in the final series. I remember him blowing up at Leacher because he wasn't getting the ball, attacking the own line, attacking the opposition 20, in fact, attacking the opposition 10. It was ridiculous, and it's just something that happens all the time with the Bulldogs, and it is so frustrating. And at the end of the day, how can this be the players' fault? How can it be the players' fault that they don't do this? I feel like they're just following a game plan, and I'm certain they're following a game plan because Ennis has talked about it before. How he talked about it recently about how Hasler is just following Hasler's orders. I think Leach has talked about it beforehand. I'm pretty sure Mbai might have talked about it on radio as well, saying he hopes to play a different style, but he's just following the orders of the coach. So yeah, everything that I'm saying right now, in all my beef with the Bulldogs in how they play and all that, it's not the players' fault. This all comes back on the coaching staff, in my opinion, and their game plans. It's the game plans. I think the Bulldogs have the players to be able to play a good style of football. We should be playing probably like a team like the Tigers or something. Obviously, the Tigers might not be the best example because they're not making that 8 themselves, but I feel like we've got a better overall team than the Tigers. But I'm saying our style should be very attacking. We've got 2 attacking halves in Mbai and Josh Reynolds, yet they don't do very much attacking. Does that make any sense to you? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, we should address the rumours that are going around. Now, yesterday I did a league report, and I talked about Buzz Rothfield saying that the Bulldogs have withdrawn an offer for Hasler. It was a 2-year extension. Now, it seems like, I don't know if Rothfield is wrong or right. I'm not going to say he's wrong or right, but that was just what he said. But the paper's actually reporting it. If you grab the Telegraph, if you go to the back page, that page, the whole back page, is all on the Bulldogs and Des Hasler, and is he going to get sacked or not at this board meeting coming up? Because it could happen. And to be honest with you, I'm totally fine if it happens. In fact, I would encourage it. I feel it's time for a change. I said it yesterday, enough is enough, and it's time for a change. And Des Hasler has been a great coach, but the key word there is he has been a great coach. I'm not saying he couldn't go to another team and do a good job. I'm sure he can, but he has some of the best facilities in the league there. He's had lots of money spent on him. He's getting paid heaps. I know that doesn't really reflect, doesn't mean they're going to coach well, but this isn't a case of him not having his team. This is what he's decided. He's decided, I want to play forward ball. Bennett has his style. Hasler has his style. And Hasler's style just doesn't work in this day and age. Now, if he went to another club, he probably would try and turn things around and probably would come up with some revolutionary idea. That's just the Des Hasler way. But right now, it seems like he's so stubborn in his ways and he's so stuck in his ways, and nothing's going to change unless he gets sacked. I think that's the only way the Bulldogs can move forward. Does it mean we'll have instant success? I don't think so. It's going to take time. I'm trying to find the right word to describe this, but I feel like I'm sick of just staying the same. Instead of going up or down, we're just going sideways. Here. We're constantly making the 8. And that is great. I would hate to be one of those teams that are stuck down, getting the wooden spoon. I wouldn't hate to be in a situation like the Dragons or the Knights or something like that. I'd much prefer to be in this situation as a Bulldogs fan where we're making the 8 and our biggest problem is that we're not making the top 4 or something like that. That's great news. However, I hate this feeling that we're just going sideways. We're not getting any closer to winning a premiership. We're not getting any closer to a wooden spoon. Not that we want it, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like anything's going to change anytime soon with Des Hasler as our coach. He's put all his money in the forwards there, and it's not like they're coming off contract or anything. He's just re-signed all of them. So it looks like, according to him, if it's up to him, we're just going to be playing the same style of football. And I'd love for Des Hasler to, if he ended up saying, to come out next season and play a totally different style of football, but I just don't see it happening. And all I can see is another season of us being mediocre, having our little moments of brilliance there through games which we've done for the last few years, or have a good spell for 20 minutes. Maybe that will help us win a game, maybe not, and then get to the finals, and then we can't get the job done because then we're actually taking on good teams. This year was a perfect example of it. We barely were beating teams like the Knights. We barely were able to do that. So what chance did we have taking on a team like the Cowboys? That's just my biggest problem. I don't feel there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. At least, in my opinion, at least if you're a Knights supporter, you know where you stand. You know your team isn't great. You know you've got a whole bunch of youngsters there. But in a few years, in maybe a few years' time, and a few good signings, you might move up. Similar to the Raiders. They're in a similar situation to what the Raiders were a few years ago. And now we can see the Raiders are doing really, really well at the moment. Whereas the Bulldogs, we're not signing anybody for next year. All we're doing is losing players. Look, Curtis Ronan has been our best signing. He's gone next year. Sam Perrott, one of our better backs this year, gone next year. Who are we replacing them with? Bronco Lee, I think. And he might be a good player, but is he any better than what we already had? No, he doesn't make anything better. Add in all those players. James Graham's another year older. The Morris twins are another year older and have more injuries that have happened. So I just don't see good things in the future for the Bulldogs, and I'm not excited for next year at all. And I know this pretty much turned in from let's talk about Des Hasler, let's talk about the Bulldogs problems, but pretty much when I'm talking about the Bulldogs, I'm talking about Des Hasler because he's the coach. He has the most control over everything here, and a lot of this revolves around his decision-making in the club, the players he selects, the players he's signed, the style of play that he's making them play, etc., etc. I think you understand what I'm saying here. Des Hasler, I think it's time to go. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. Well, that's my 2 cents here. I'm going to wrap up the video now. In the comment section below, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this matter and on this topic. Do you think Des Hasler still has it? Do you think he still has it? Obviously, we can't debate whether he was a good coach. We know he's been a great coach over the years. However, right now, do we think Des Hasler is a good fit for the Bulldogs? Should he be sacked? Should they stick with him? Has his signings been bad? His signings been good? Are the Bulldogs on the up? Are they on the on the down? There's so many questions that can be answered, and feel free to have an attempt at it in the comment section below. If you just want to give your thoughts on it. Manly fans, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Des Hasler right now. Considering you're not really in a great position yourself there, maybe he's going to be available, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up the video here. Thanks for watching, guys. If you did happen to enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. You can follow me on Twitter, at Mr. Luca YT is my Twitter handle. And it's the same for my Instagram, not that I don't use it very often, but it's there. My Facebook page is in the description below. I think that's all the plugs out of the way there. I don't think there's anything else. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you for my next video. Bye, guys.